before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is you want to call it destroyed. You want to call it defeated. You want to call it obliterated. Choose your word. This was an historically successful attack. We should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years. And no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
Hello, Bobby Jones here for MeidasTouch and Valor Media Networks in This Week for Ken Harbaugh. The clips you just saw was from the press conference that the Secretary of Defense of the United States, Pete Hegseth, had along with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This press conference was basically ordered by Donald Trump. And the reason for that is ever since the United States had their airstrike against Iran, against their nuclear facilities, there has been so much miscommunication, to put it lightly, on exactly what happened and most importantly, why the United States took part in it and what to expect next. As a matter of fact, the press coverage for this has been basically opposite of what Donald Trump hoped to achieve. Now, I have talked extensively about what I believe the president's mindset was leading up to authorizing those strikes. But what I did not anticipate was actual military execution done right. I mean, done right, but yet the mission goal was not defined. And even what you could define may not have been met. Let me explain. The overall mission stated right after this happened by Donald Trump himself was to destroy and obliterate. He used that word, obliterate, the Iranian nuclear weapons program. And he said it was done. Now, people like me who served almost 3 decades in the United States military, we know that to get what's called battle damage assessment, it takes a little bit of time. It sure as heck does not take place right after the strike has been completed and the actual planes are still flying back to their home base. But Trump needed the moment. He needed the triumphant military commander moment that he has been searching for desperately since he first took office in his first term. He is dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome, jealousy, especially when compared to his predecessor, Barack Obama. I think a lot of this goes back to Barack Obama being the president that ordered the mission that killed Osama bin Laden, and it's annoyed Trump. So he thought that this was going to be his moment. But then a couple of things started to happen. The press started saying, hey, our experts are saying we don't know if you guys actually completed the mission by taking out the site in Fordo and the other locations. Additionally, it came out that, satellite images of many trucks at the Fordo facility moving material, the very material that the mission was supposed to take out. And then the hammer dropped when CNN got a leaked report saying there was very low confidence that the actual nuclear facilities were put totally out of commission. That caused President Trump to spiral. That also took place while Iran had their retaliatory strikes against Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar, and the Iranians and Israelis not adhering to his much publicized, much pat on the back ceasefire announcement. I mean, it was just bad after bad after bad after bad, in something where he literally saw himself as the new age Napoleon in the moment. Well, how do you fix that? You make your Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff go and hold this press conference. I look at this press conference from two different perspectives. One, from what Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, said, and two, from what General Kane said as the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I'm going to be, very transparent and say, I think the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs did his job. He talked about the nuts and bolts of the operation, and he brought credit to the people that actually executed it. Okay. So that's really all I have to say about what he did. He did a good job of laying out what the weapon systems were, et cetera, the timeline, et cetera. But Pete Hegseth, who even said, hey, his job is to be the political side of this, while the chairman is supposed to be the military side of this, he is the one that went and jumped the shark on many levels. Here's what I don't understand. Number one, the first thing he does is come out and just blast the media on their perception, blast the media on them getting the leaked intel report saying, hey, the mission may not actually have been accomplished. First of all, that's not the media's fault. That is your Pentagon's fault, your Department of Defense fault, leaking information. Number two, some of us are sophisticated and mature enough to separate the people doing the mission and their bravery and their professionalism and their exceptional skill set from the people that sent them to go do the mission. This whole concept of, hey, if you criticize the mission, then you're criticizing those brave men and women in uniform. Bullshit. As someone who's been that guy, the most American thing to do is to question and criticize the authority, especially when you are sending military forces downrange. Okay, that is what's important. So he's sitting there hiding behind the uniform of the people who actually went and did the mission to try to evade very fundamental questions like, what intelligence did you have that said you needed to make this strike? Why all of a sudden did the battle damage assessment, which you guys said would take days, magically change? You have the director of national intelligence and Tulsi Gabbard sitting there saying they're months away. And then yesterday she magically sits there and says, oh, well, we have new information that made this seem reasonable. The CIA magically comes out of a report saying this, but yet the leaked report from DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, says differently about how well and how successful everything is. So you have people all under the Department of Defense and outside of the Department of Defense giving mixed messages on what the actual assessment was and the reason to go to war. And because you cannot answer that question, Pete Hegseth, you want to hide behind the men and women that flew the 36-hour mission. You want to, we need to talk about how hard it is to do that. It is hard, but guess what? That's the job. They train for it. That's what they do. And they really, honestly, as someone, again, who's been in uniform doing hard things, we don't want to brag about it. We do the job, but you're trying to highlight them because you want them to be a shield from your incompetence as far as why we did it, how well did we do it, and what's next. You don't want to answer those questions. That's why you're doing this.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping your and your family's personal information from data broker websites. And they send you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. I care a lot about my personal privacy, and I think hard about ways to protect myself and my family online. The threats these days are very real. Identity theft, harassment, doxing. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting Ken to 64000. The only way to get 20% off is to text KEN to 64,000. That's KEN to 64000. Message and data rates may apply.
The Secretary of Defense, and most importantly, the President of the United States, are looking for reasons, looking for avenues to deflect from the actual reality of we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're trying to look tough, but it's obvious there's no comprehensive plan. It's obvious we really still don't know how damaged things are. And if the media can use commercial satellites to sit there and see that material may have been moved before the strike, then you're telling me that the Department of Defense does not have that capability to say that? And then when asked that question directly, you punt to the CIA and the intel community? This is ridiculous. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a cover up. The American people, and to be honest, the world at large, needs to understand what America's intentions were, how successful they were in meeting those intentions, and most importantly, what the heck is next. Because President Trump at the NATO summit really didn't do a good job of clarifying that either. So he rolls out Hegseth, and Hegseth is performing for one person, and that is the president. The fact that the press corps was in front of him and he could conveniently use them as a whipping toy, I find that very interesting too, because he's sitting there blaming people in the press corps for the information that they received from within inside the Pentagon. But most importantly, Hegseth, who worked at Fox News, went after one of his former colleagues, one of the best Pentagon correspondents there, who had given accurate reports. She literally took offense to what he was saying because she knows what he's doing. This press conference was a disaster because it didn't really answer anything. Yes, it told the narrative of the people executing the mission, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he should be able to do that. But again, the primary questions: what intelligence did you act on? How successful was the actual mission? And why did the battle damage assessment change so quickly and abruptly, even though all of the initial reports, including the leaked documents, said the severity of the damage is debatable? It's that simple. None of that was cleared. And the final piece of this is there was supposed to be an intelligence briefing to a bipartisan group of congressmen that was canceled by the president and is yet to be rescheduled. That is how you know they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They're running from accountability.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.